negative impact on the city of Pensacola. I take to heart both of you's requests, the many people that spoke out to today's request, and I will continue to. I have not made a decision, and I hope that you guys don't vote to remove me. But I will tell you this: if I remain in office, I promise to do better and do what Ms. Dubuisson asked me to do on that Thursday night. She told me to count to 3, and I'll count to 10 before that happens. But so there was one gentleman that called me. I'm not sure where he was from. I took his phone call, and he was a very nice guy. I mean, it was quite contrary to the people that have threatened to kill me, the people that threatened to rape my wife in places you don't want me to mention, and but very, very, very scary things. I still got them on my voicemail. I kept them. My wife said I'd be crazy to move on. But this one gentleman was pretty nice. And I said, would you feel any differently if you watched the entire film and a few moments later, Reverend Monk came back in and sat down? I don't know if you noticed, but the police did not escort him out of the room. He left the room on his own. He came back. Would it make a difference to you if you knew that Reverend Monk had an opportunity to speak later that night for another 4 minutes? And he said, yes, it would. And I said, well, you know, I'm not going to sit there and try to tell the story over and over and over again. I'm not even saying that anybody is given a biased presentation of it. But when you can explain the entire context, that sometimes people do change their mind. I just don't want to be in the position of having to defend it and drawing even more negative attention. So that's the reason I pretty much left it alone. Ms. Dubuisson.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I appreciate that you remembered the count to 3, and had I really been in a calm space, I would have told you to just shut your mouth, but I chose instead to say count to 3. Since that night, I have watched the YouTube, email, blogs. I have received myself, as a non-elected individual living here in Pensacola, inquiries from 14 groups that I had been in conference with about doing things here regarding what in the heck is going on in Pensacola. I would point out to you that at the same time that you denied Reverend Monk his rights, you did not allow the public to give input on Mr. Messer's contract moving forward. You took it to an immediate vote without allowing for public input. And on multiple occasions during both of those meetings, you had a very, shall we say, unbalanced process of allowing conversation and timelines. Arbitrarily changing in moments when you thought things should continue, you would just waive the rules, and at other times when you had had enough of hearing what people had to say, timelines were implemented. Since then, the PR people of the city worked with you in crafting a response to the union's call. And then there was a second blog report of a letter that you issued. And in none of those have I heard you say that you recognize that you denied Reverend Monk and others their civil rights. You can talk about suspending them. No one suggested that you suspended them. We are saying that you denied him in the moment the opportunity to address his government. And some of us believe that that is at the core of democracy. Some of us believe that if we are silent when someone, whether they are saying what we want to hear or not, is silenced because it is to your preference, that you have become a tyrant. And that is the point, that when we say you need to look at the role you've taken, I believe emotionally you responded that night from your needs, not the city's need. And I would highly encourage you to look at whether you might serve the city better by sitting on the sideline and giving the detailed information for which many of us admire the facts that you bring to this meeting. With you in the sitting chair position, your emotional response guides this circle rather than your factual knowledge. And I believe the city is not served as well, and I would join with the council members who've already suggested that you consider it, and I would really appreciate if you look at the full impact of your presence on our national image here in Pensacola. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Resign. Ms. Maren.
I just wanted to let you know, I was really feeling sorry for you, because I know it was probably just a mistake, but you have to recognize what a big mistake it is. And you don't seem to be doing that. I was going to come up here and say, I know it's first day on the job type scenario, but I don't think you're grasping it.
I actually have asked for a transcript of the December 12th meeting. Specifically, I'm reviewing it because I felt like that what occurred December 15th was somewhat almost an epilogue from what occurred December 12th. And I looked at that in its entire context from beginning to end. But there's no doubt there were insightful words that were spoken. Definitely, I want you to know that I did hear from people that supported your attempt. Now, whether or not the methodology, the application, the style was something they would endorse, they did confirm that they appreciated the attempt to create or to contain or stop the insightful nature of what was happening in the meeting. And you know, I just hope that, and that I heard from people that don't live here as well, so those weren't friends of mine. I think you've heard the citizens tonight clearly. I feel bad for those that were angered. I feel bad for those that felt violated. I feel especially bad for you and your wife for being on the receiving end of threats. That definitely, you know, is just something none of us as public servants ever want to be a victim of that, and the anxiety that goes with that. So I'm sorry that your position as president has already introduced you to that. But I just appeal to fellow council members to be understanding, and in this regard, I think that our president has a very, very clear message from us, his peers, as well as from the population. And I just expect from knowing Mr. Hall that he will take all of these comments to heart. And I seriously doubt that not only will Council President Hall put himself in that sort of position of vulnerability again, I also equally hope that the citizens that perhaps reached a level of, like I said, using insightful words and statements would back off of that. But again, I think isolating it and looking at it just in the YouTube video does not at all show the picture from the beginning to the end, including the committee of the whole meeting. And so I don't support you resigning. If you want to take that home and think about it, I think it would be disruptive, and I encourage you to stay.
Well, thank you, and I will give that equal consideration with everybody else's recommendations. Ms. Myers.
Well, I think two things. I think in the eyes of the public, it would be very helpful if you would apologize to Reverend Monk. Okay, I think that's one thing the public would like to hear from you. The second thing is that I hope that the council has learned something that I've wanted you to learn for a long time about the right of the people to redress their grievances to the government. And unfortunately, the type of language that the courts have said they can use to express their grievances to the government. I mean, there's at Vanderbilt University, there's the First Amendment Center that was started by a friend of mine, I'm proud to say, John Sigenthaler. whose son you may have seen on the news. He was the editor and publisher of the Nashville Tennessean, largest newspaper in Tennessee. And I have found some very interesting cases on that website that really surprised me at what the courts have said citizens can say to their government. And the government is not just us; it's employees who work for the city. They're the government too. So I'm really hoping that the council has learned something through this event, and so you know, I do think that there would be less of a inclination on the public to ask for your resignation if you could just simply apologize to Father Monk. I think that's what people want to hear and want to have confidence that you understand the magnitude of what happened and that we can move on.